chat box where there's a link. We are slightly out of time, but we have another comment from Phyllis M. Weaver, who says, who has a question, and if Cheryl, you could answer it quite briefly. Is it true that women entrepreneurs are many times outside the loop with funding and marketing? And another comment from Mary Karbajal to say, on top of this, there are more than 3%, less than 3% of women in the VC space.
Exactly. So I said 5% of partners of VC companies are female. Fortunately, this is changing. There's more female-friendly funding, as they call it. So this tackles both of those challenges, that women are indeed overlooked as far as funding and outreach. Again, that's why we have this persistent image that it's a white, highly educated young male who is the target of all communications, but also the face of those communications. So of course, women who are women of color, who are of an older age group, who are maybe don't have an MBA, don't feel that they are targeted with that outreach. And this is very much the thing that we need to change.
Wonderful. I think, does anyone else have any questions, or are we able to, for the purpose of time, text Cheryl in the chat box, and then we can maybe move on to the next speaker. But I think Dr. Florence Lisabwe has some comment. Please, can you go ahead?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sherry. I'm really delighted that you brought this on the table because this is really an issue dear to the Foundation Lab, as we have experienced the pandemic impact on women in the small businesses, especially women involved in the cross-border trade. So I think that the next step for us in our next, we have talked about a collaboration, and I'm so happy about that. I think that the next step will be to ensure that social entrepreneurship proceeds in tandem with digitalization.
I'm sorry, I'm muted, but absolutely. I mean, I think now that we are all focusing on the Sustainable Development Goals, as we should, and this is a perspective that women uniquely bring, I believe. So the focus on social entrepreneurship, the access to technology, and all of this driven by women from the grassroots, but also from the top down. So we also have to demand more women in leadership, more women's voices. Don't be afraid to ask for quotas. Look at what the situation is in Rwanda, which is a leader, as far as parliamentary participation by women. And this we should be demanding the world over so that we can bring all of these three things together. And I'm thrilled for us to be able to work on this topic together. Thank you, Dr. Nisabwe.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Cheryl Miller-van Dijk. I think we are good to move on to the next speaker now, who is Dr. Joanne Roll. And I will keep her intro brief, but hopefully highlight some of her key accomplishments. Okay, sorry, one moment. Dr. Joanne Roll, sorry, it's Dean Joanne Roll according to her profile on the platform, but I will refer to you as Dr. Roll. Dr. Roll's a visionary leader with leadership that integrates business and technology acumen, partnership building, creative problem solving, one-of-a-kind entrepreneurial academic innovator, and a global thought leader on the topics of the future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved and in workforce diversity and development. With over 20 years of board experience as a member, treasurer, and secretary on nonprofit and private company boards, Dr. Roll is open to additional private or public boards, especially in EdTech, ESG, fintech industries. She's also a consultant for about 30 years to the federal government, corporations, and various educational and non-profit organizations. She's worked as a senior economist with the World Bank projects in Tanzania, and she was an admin fellow in the audit department at Harvard University, before a manager of corporate executive training at IBM, and she became a higher education leader 26 years ago. So Dr. Roll, I would like to hand over the platform to you to share your presentation with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that exhaustive presentation. Now I really do feel anxious. Oh God, I'm almost embarrassed. I want to first say that I've really been inspired by the presentations that have come before us. In the one presentation, it talked about the importance of this work. In another presentation, it shared with you that New York is the #1 leader of minority businesses in the US. And number two, I just want to share with you that among women businesses in this country, the fastest growing sector is among Black women. So I want to also bring you greetings from our president, President Patricia Ramsey. She is the 6th president of Medgar Evers College, City University of New York. However, she is the first woman president that we have the honor of having lead this great institution. I bring you greetings from the family of students, faculty, and community. And our college was born out of social justice, as in the name Medgar Evers, the slain civil rights leader. I want to talk about, and let me put myself on timer, because academics, we can go on, and I want to stay on my time. We started this work in 2016, and we had 2 conferences there. One was social entrepreneurship. We led with that, and I wish I could tell you it was the academics that decided to lead with social entrepreneurship, but no, it was our students who wanted to give back. We had students that wanted to be in business, but not just necessarily business for the sake of business. They wanted to give back to the community that it came from. And the second part was corporate social responsibility. So in 1 year, we had 2 conferences, one building on the small businesses that we have so many of in New York, and then the other, how to marry the work that's done in the small businesses as well as the large corporations. I will tell you, we were funded by Carnegie Corporation, City University of New York, and several other banks. And with that funding, we had the conferences, but we also took our students who were budding entrepreneurs to several countries around the world to study entrepreneurship. We went to Kenya 3 times, and our work with Kenya started with Startup Africa, and it was, as you see in this picture and in this picture, both in Nairobi and upcountry, looking at what we could do with women entrepreneurs. And the 3 conferences in Kenya were women entrepreneurship conferences. So I won't take long, and this is on this picture was the social entrepreneurship conference, and I want to just give recognition to Erastus Morere. He's right here. On Friday, they will be celebrating the 10th year of Startup Africa, with a primary focus of developing women businesses in Kenya. So this brief time I have with you, I want to talk a little bit about our challenge, which is the worldwide income equity. You heard a little bit about it in a couple of the previous presentations. I want to talk a little bit about our work, and then I want to talk about the global informal economy. You heard that, women are disproportionately represented, but the truth of the matter is many of the women businesses are just not counted. And we'll talk about that as well. And we'll talk about global recovery. And this is from a new IMF report. 2 of those are from IMF reports. But I don't want to leave you with just the problem and the challenges. I want to share with you one of the bottom-up strategies about community community engagement and how to get real benefits by not just starting top down, but looking bottom up and actually consulting, working and collaborating with the community. In this picture that you see here, it was us up country in Kenya at one of the girls' schools, which started teaching entrepreneurship in the school, and our students who were studying entrepreneurship also becoming mentors to some of those students. And we actually have one of the students in our alumni now who sourced his complete business out of Kenya and now is running a business in collaboration. But let's talk about the challenge. I'm an economist by training. And although our team that we work together from the time of 2016 includes cross sections of marketing, physicists, NGO leaders, and entrepreneurs, we look through the lens of what is happening to the world via income and wealth. And you saw a little bit about that. But what I want to share with you is the problem is not a US problem. The problem is not an Africa problem. It is not a Latin American problem. It is a global problem. In this particular graph, you see that 10% of the national income, the darker the map, the more inequitable it is. And the darkest parts of the map, they earn anywhere between 50 to 70% of the income. And you can see in Latin America and in Africa, you have a tremendous amount of the wealth, as well as some of the other countries, owned by only 10% of the income earners. And, even in the US, we are not that great. And Russia, it is not that great. It's anywhere between 43 and 50% is driven by 10%. So we have a real global problem when we start looking at the distribution of income. So the issue is not resources, it's the allocation of the income. And so we say the future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved is a struggle for humanity. It is not a new struggle. We have been struggling for a very long time. If you know the UN, the number one goal is to eradicate poverty, but it is with the backdrop of that data that I have just shared with you. So what is our work? We want to talk about our why. As leaders, we need to allow ourselves to experiment, try things out, make adjustments. Leaders navigating the future of work will find themselves experiencing the uncomfortable stages of the creative process. They may also be surprised by what they discover is possible. This is one of the leaders in the future of work, Jeff Schwartz, who is with Deloitte, and that's out of his brand new book that came out earlier this year. And part of our reason for why is to get more voices from Africa, more voices from Latin America, and more voices from the US talking about this work, how we need to evolve and shape the future of work as it relates to us. So let me talk a little bit about the formal global economy, because what you saw in the data is what we track. But we don't track a lot of what's happening in a lot of the underserved areas. And so this is a report out of the IMF that came out early this year, mid-year. What do we know about the informal economy? This sense of urgency has only been reinforced by the coronavirus disease 2019 and the pandemic. The pandemic has crushed informal activities, particularly in developing countries, but I also say in other underserved, even in developed countries, where large segments of the population are not covered by existing social protection schemes. And so even though the data looks bad, we know it's worse because many that we talk about are not in the numbers. So let's talk about in the shadows, informality has receded across all regions, but remains large in sub-Saharan Africa and in Latin America. And let's go to some of the underlying reasons why. I was giving this talk, a similar talk like this at Kenyatta University in Nairobi. And I was mentioning, because I will go back later in the presentation and talk about the Latin America case study that we looked at. But in Latin America, specifically in some countries like Colombia, the informal economy is evolves out of the drug economy. And I will talk about that. But in Kenya, they have an informal economy, but the reason being is the cost of doing business is very high. The taxes, the registration, all of that is high. So, these are entrepreneurs. They do the math. And so many of them survive. It's not just the street vendors, but many of them survive under the radar because of the expenses of registering the businesses. And so they have an under economy that is fueled by the need of making margins, making profit, being able to help their families survive. And this was happening pre-pandemic. It just got more escalated post-pandemic. So let's continue on and talk about part of the solutions. We did a book that we released earlier this year in June, the handbook on the future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved. And the purpose of that book was to give more voices from more countries to talk about what was happening in their economies, what was happening in their regions. You will read a lot about the future of work, but very seldom does it come from our voices. And so in this particular one, these scholars have been working, I'd say, for 2 decades, long before the future of work evolved as a subject. And what they did was they went into the cities where in Latin America, where there was crime, where there was poverty, where there was a problem. And they didn't just come up with a solution. They talked to the residents and developed a shared vision. What did the community want to see in the future for their own community? A lot of times, some of our policymakers make policy and about the ghetto or about the slums, and they have never seen a slum. They've never been in a slum. They don't know what it feels like to fight from day to day to earn your living. And so what these scholars, they were not armchair scholars, they went into those homes and they talked to the women. It was the women that gave them the insight. It was the women that told them, we don't want our husbands to die. We don't want our fathers to die. We don't want our brothers to die. We would rather have them home with us, but we need an alternative. We need a way for us to support our families and those we love. And so they begin shaping a vision and a formula together with the public and the private sector for each pieces of the city. And what they call it is city doctors framework, is because the city that has the problem, it is not just the housing, it is not just jobs, it is not just security, it is not just education and training or health or waste management. Some of the sewage was non-existent, as in many of the places. If you've been into some of these places, you would know that the infrastructure is a problem. So they brought together a shared vision and they worked together with the academics, with the small businesses, with the government, with the large corporations, and they came up with an alternative economy so that the people didn't have to rely so much on the drugs. You know, a lot of people say drugs are bad, but then what else do some people have to live? People will survive. They will find a way to survive. They will find a way to sustain those families. And so you can't just tell them, get out of the drug business. You got to replace it. And so they replaced it with many, multiple businesses. And I will tell my colleagues in the academy, they had to change. You know, a college education is good, but if it doesn't lead to a job, it's a challenge. So they developed just-in-time education, apprenticeships, other forms of training training so that they would be ready for the marketplace. And yes, again, there were some who still got college education, but it wasn't the only game in town. We as educators need to learn that we have to adapt and change to the market needs. I will tell you one of the reasons that we came together with my colleagues. I got to watch my time, y'all. I'll go over it if I don't watch it. We came together in 2016 because we had a problem. We were producing a lot of product out of Jamaica, out of Chile, out of Kenya. A lot of our graduates just were not getting jobs. And I'm not just talking about our undergraduate students. We had PhDs that couldn't find work. Why? There weren't enough teaching positions around the world for them. In fact, in Chile, the problem, and we had a physicist on our team, was if his graduates wanted to work, they had to leave Chile and go somewhere else. And many of them didn't want to leave home. They didn't want to leave Chile. So they sat right there in Chile and developed entrepreneurial businesses. And so we evolved out of a need for creating job creators. You know, we got a lot of job seekers. We don't have to worry about creating job seekers. But in the communities we serve, we need to create more job creators. And so that's the community engagement that they had in the several of the Latin American countries that my colleagues developed. And they are the #1 lead chapter in our book, The Future of Work and Entrepreneurship, that came out in June. So I want to give you some practical implications and conclusions, and I'm still watching my time. We propose that unity in community and capacity building is vital to create shared prosperity. Academics, politicians, corporations, don't go out there and try to do it alone. Industry, if you try to do it alone, you will find, like now, there is a supply shortage of labor. Why? People don't want to work like they used to work. If you mandate that all of these women go back to where they came from, you will find that they will find alternative strategies to provide for their home. And that's what we're seeing in some of the data. The informal economy was disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. We don't really know how bad it is in the underserved world, because many of those in the underserved world are just not measured for a lot of different reasons. Here, even in the US, there are pockets within the cities where we just don't know what's going on. And, you know, you can claim that, you know, we don't have the same problems, but we have some of the same issues. Many people are not counted for many different reasons. And earlier, Dr. E said, vote. Well, many people are not voting because they don't want to be counted, because there are issues with how the system works. I'm not justifying, I'm just sharing that there's a reason. Okay, global recovery will require a shared vision and international collaboration of the diaspora and others. We cannot solve these problems by ourselves. No one country can solve these problems. When we saw the pandemic come, in order for a solution or a quasi-solution, all of the countries of the world had to work together and bring in the collective intellectual capital to help solve the problem. One of the tragedies is, and I will tell you because I have welcome who are in India. India is the largest producer of some of the vaccines. However, India ships it out to everybody else, and they continue to have problems with the death toll and, in the country. So, you know, this is not just a one country problem. We have to put our heads together to work together to make things happen for the underserved worldwide, not just in one place. Just because you have the money to buy the vaccine doesn't mean that you should have all the vaccine. We hope that further dialogue in the academy and the industry and policy on how to ensure that all are included in the future growth of all economies. I don't want to go back to normal. You know what normal is? Normal is that map you saw I first identified. Normal is underserved, being poor, and the majority of the world being poor. We can do better. We must do better, and we want to be better than our old normal. And as I come, I want to share with you this. We went to the girl, and it wasn't by accident. We went to a girls' school to talk about entrepreneurship. We understand that a lot of the entrepreneurial activity in Africa and around the world, women lift up the boat. Yes, there are many mothers, daughters, and sisters that are responsible for those families, no matter what happens to everybody else. And they rise, whether they have to do it formally or informal. Indeed, our communities can serve as laboratories for innovation. We can't just do what we did before. It yield those numbers I showed you. We got to be innovative. That's why I love the Innovation Lab that has come on and say, you know, let's look at everybody. Let's look at social entrepreneurship, where we can develop and test reskilling programs, explore the creation of transition nets, and reset local agendas as a precursor to resetting national policies and programs. There are jobs. There will be more jobs. But will we be ready? Will our children be ready? Will our legacy be that we prepared our children for the world that they will be living in to come? And so that it's not an absence of jobs, it's being prepared. This is our handbook. It was edited by myself and two Kenyan collaborator scholars, Dr. Kasato out of Kenyatta University and Dr. Kibaya, both out of, but this is what I want to share with you. You too can have a voice. You too can work in this work. We are producing a new book, an editor in the US, the previous editor was in the UK, on sustainability and the future of work and entrepreneurship for the world for the underserved. Let your voice be heard. So that it's not an absence one of the editors is prepared. This is our handbook. I want you to hear this. And this book explores the global income disparity from both the formal and informal economy perspectives with a special focus on post-COVID outcomes and highlight. This is what I want to share with you. You too can have a voice. Specific focus. You too can work in this work. Adaptation. We're producing a new book and resilience, growth, and sustainability. We start lots of businesses. That's not the problem. Startup is not the problem. Sustainability and scalability is the challenge. This book also offers recommendations from thought leaders like yourself. I want you on the needed collaborations between. This book explores the global income disparity from both government formal and community to economy inclusive outcomes, special emphasis on inclusive outcomes for the future and highlights different workforce. We all have a responsibility. Don't just sit back and let someone else determine how we shape and lessons learned working on resilience, growth, and sustainability. Join. We start lots of businesses. That's not the problem. Here is the link. If anyone is sustainability and scalability is the challenge. This book also offers recommendations from thought leaders like yourself. Thank you on the needed collaborations between industry, academic time, government, and the community to improve inclusive outcomes.
Dr. Joanne Roll, that was one powerful presentation.
We all have a responsibility. Don't just sit back and let someone else determine how we shape the
but
future
you're
of work and
definitely on my list of
entrepreneurship
people
in
that I
our
want to spend
community.
the evening having a glass of South African wine with,
movement.
And maybe
Here
watching
is
an
the
African
link
sunset.
if anyone is interested in sending the
So
abstract.
that was really
The due date for
powerful.
the abstract
So thank you
is
so
November
much.
the
And
10th. Okay,
you've
so
really
thank
raised
you.
some very,
I
very
am
important
done,
points,
and
but
I
also
believe
not just
I
raise
hope
them,
I'm within my time.
raise them in a way
I'm
that
within
made
my
me
time.
want to say, Amandla,
Dr. Joanne
Roll, that was one
a
powerful
struggle
presentation.
phrase here
I
in the
want to
southern
have
part
dinner
of
with you,
the
and I'm sure
continent.
there's many in
And,
our audience who want to do the
I
same.
see that there's a couple of
But you're
comments for
definitely
you.
on my list of people that I want to spend
Here
the
we
evening having a
have
glass of South African wine with, and maybe watching an African
Joanne's
sunset.
topic is very interesting. The future
So
of
that was
Africa is
really
in our
powerful.
hands.
So thank
and
you so
our
much.
continent is continent of the future.
You
It has
really
lots of
raised some
entrepreneurial
very, very
opportunities.
important points.
The future is
but
there.
also not just raise
Yesterday,
them,
I met with the former
raise them
PM
in
of
a
Mali
way
that made me want to
who
say
came to my
Amandla
university to present his topic
struggle
on
on
struggle
how to rethink Africa's
phrase
development.
here in the
We all
southern
agree
part
that
of
Africa is a growing continent of
economic
growth.
I see
And
that
by
there's a couple of
that,
comments
and that
for you.
she will be
redeemed by
Here we
entrepreneurship.
have,
Hence,
knowing that Africa is
majorly
made of
underserved
very
populations,
interesting. The future
governments
of
should
Africa is
make
in our
policies
hands
that ease
and
their
our
access to
continent is
opportunities
continent of
to
the
develop
future.
their business.
It has
Thank
lots
you
of
so much for that
entrepreneurial
comment.
opportunities.
The future is
I'm just
there.
checking if we've got any questions
I met with the
here.
former PM of Mali.
So
Came
a couple
to
of
my
comments
university
to
to
thank you.
present
It was
public
great. On on how to rethink Africa's development.
If anyone has
we
a
all
question
agree that
or
Africa
two
is a
for
growing continent
Joanne Roll,
of economic
before
growth.
we break for a
And
comfort
by
break,
that, and while we have the
she will
comfort
be
break, we
redeemed
will
by
be sharing a
entrepreneurship.
little video.
Hence,
Knowing that
I'm
Africa
just
is
checking
majorly
on our chat box
made of
here.
underserved
We'd like to
populations.
get in touch with
Government
you.
should make
So
policies that ease
Dr.
their
Roll,
access to
if you could
opportunities.
please
To
share your
develop their
contact
business. Thank you
information
so
with
much for that comment.
with the chat box.
I think
I'm just checking
that
if
would
we've
be
got any
appreciated.
questions here.
Thank you so much. So a couple of comments just to say thank you. It was great. I don't see any further questions or any hands raised. If anyone has a question or two, I apologize. Dr. Joanne Roll, before we break, I think I'm going to and while we have the comfort break, we will be sharing a little video. I'm just checking. I just want to double check that here. We'd like to get in touch with you. It's a comfort break, and then
Roll,
we
if
will
you
have a
could
video
please
playing.
share your contact
Don't go
information
anywhere.
with
Just possibly
with
put
chat
yourself
box.
on mute.
I think
have your
that
comfort
would be
break and get back
appreciated.
to us. Thank you so much.
This is really exciting and interesting.
Okay,
and we would love to continue.
I don't
with
see
the
any
same
further
energy.
questions or
Thank
any
you.
hands raised. If I've missed that, I apologize, but I think I'm going to allow the tech team to draw us into break. And I just want to double check that the break will be 10 minutes long, comfort break, and then we will have a video playing. Don't go anywhere. Possibly put yourself on mute. Have your comfort break and get back to us. Because this is really exciting and interesting, and we would love to continue with the same energy. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for staying on board. The next speaker is going to be Dr. Sorry, I'm just opening up my schedule here. It's going to be Dr. Ralph Steele, who is also a partner at our conference or summit. Dr. Steele, I don't see you. Ah, there you are, Dr. Ralph's iPad. Okay, Dr. Steele is a very well-respected economist. Welcome back, everyone. Thought leader. Thank you so much for. I would love for Lotus staying on board. For Dr. Lotus to do his introduction. Lotus, are you available? Dr. Sorry, I'm just opening up my schedule here. I think there might be going to be Dr. Ralph Steele, so I'm going to go ahead. Who is also a partner introducing at our conference or summit speaker to the audience. Dr. Steele, I don't see you. Just a second. There you are, Dr. Ralph's iPad. Okay, Dr. Steele is Dr. Steele is a very well-respected economist, expert, and wealth thought leader and has released powerful I would love for Lotus. His mission is to educate individuals to do in theory and practice Lotus about economics, financial literacy, investments, entrepreneurship, business ownership. There might be a slight delay, so I'm going to go financial strategy as well as his favorite phrase being wealth speaker to the audience. I would like to allow Dr. Steele to now take over our platform and share his thought leadership with us. Dr. Steele is an extraordinary, as I said, he is the author of quite a number of books and has released very much powerful leader in this field. His mission is to educate individuals in theory and practice about economics, financial literacy, investments, entrepreneurship, business ownership, and being debt-free, financial strategy, as well as the technology people should have my human rights. PowerPoint. I would like to allow Dr. Steele to now take over everyone can see it and share his thought leadership with us on this very important topic. As I said, he is the author of quite a number of books. And very much a thought leader Dr. Steele. The tech team will upload Thank you so much and welcome to the platform, Dr. Steele. Correct. In the meantime, good morning. Yes, I appreciate your very nice, kind words. I'm honored to be here. And what have you. I am an author of 21 books. Now, my wealth building, the technology, even people should have women. And in our PowerPoint, put it on so everyone can see it. Dr. Rose said globally is definitely an issue that we all need. They should have it, and the technology, and if you will, we can collaborate. Thanks, Dr. Steele. The tech team will upload your presentation shortly, and especially for women as well. In the meantime, yes, I appreciate your. So I'll just wait now. Very nice, kind words. Uploading of the. And what have you. I am an author of 21 books that wealth building and even specifically for women and in Africa and the not to have received it in order or in the right format. Dr. Rose said globally is definitely an issue that we all need to do and and if you will, we can collaborate and make things better for everyone, and especially for women as well. Give us a moment to get that presentation basically up and running. Where I'm at. You. So I'll just wait now for the uploading. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Sorry, Dr. Steele, I've just got a message that you would need to upload the presentation because the tech team seems not to have received it in order. Or in the right format. So maybe if you could share your screen with us, is that possible? Let me see. Apologies if this causes any delay, but please give us a moment to get that presentation up and running. Thank you. Okay. Dr. Steele, you would need to hit the screen share, the share screen button, which is the green one. Let me see. Right in the middle of the page, and it should be easy enough for you to share from that button. Thank you. Or the next option would be for you to just speak through your presentation. I'm sure we can pick up on your talking points. Thank you.
Let me see.
Dr. Steele, you would need to hit the screen
Okay, yeah,
share,
hold
the
on
share
a sec.
screen button, which is the green one, right in the middle of the page, and it should be easy enough for you to share from that button. Thank you.
Let me see here.
Or the next option would be for you to just speak through your presentation. I'm sure we
screen
can
sharing,
pick up on your talking
maybe
points.
we
Thank
can
you.
have
Some comments on how the event is going so far. What thoughts do you have
Okay,
about
hold on a sec.
the content that's being shared? Do you feel any benefit from this? Is there something more that you would like to hear from the speakers, or different focus areas? Something that they would like to hone in on, or something that's quite passionate to you? We'd love to hear from you.
Let me see here.
Thank you so much. I think while Dr. Steele is prepping his screen sharing, maybe we can have some comments.
Thank you, Mary.
On
Mary
how
says,
the event
love
is going so far.
Huge benefit
What
from
do
the
you?
knowledge
What
share.
thoughts do you have about
Grateful for the topics,
the content that's being
thus
shared?
far. Thank you so
Do
much,
you
Mary.
feel any
That's
benefit
great.
from this? Is
And
there
I
something
think we all
more
agree
that you
with
would
you
like
that
to
some
hear
of
from the
the
speakers,
conversations
or different
are
focus
very
areas?
insightful. It's
Something that they
strong
would like to hone in on, or
perspective
something
that's
that's quite
opening up
passionate to
our
you?
minds and awareness
We'd love to hear from you. To
to
things that are happening around the world that also impact and affect us as well. Also, Lotus Riche says the content is magnificent,
Mary
and we are
says,
seeing
love the
people
conversations,
huge
huge
benefit
benefit
from the knowledge
all
share.
around the world,
Grateful
chiming
for the
into our live
topics brought
broadcast.
to the table
Wonderful.
thus far.
Thank
We're
you
very
so
happy
much,
to hear
Mary.
from
That's
everyone.
great.
And I think we all agree with you that some
Mary
of the
says that it would be
conversations
great to have
contact
very
information from
insightful,
speakers, strong perspective.
what is their
It's opening
ask
up
to this
our minds
community
and awareness
how can we
to
best help?
to things that are happening
And
around
yes, I
the world
agree. We will
that
have
also
more contact
impact and
information
affect us
available
as well.
I believe that some of the
Also,
speakers have
Lotus
shared, but for
Riche
those who have
says
not,
the
we will
content
make
is
that
magnificent,
information
and we are
public
seeing
with their
people
consent.
Magda has said everything is going great.
Chiming
The
into
topic
our
of the
live
discussion
broadcast.
is an alarming
Wonderful.
theme to bring
We're
on.
very happy to
We
hear
agree.
from everyone.
Thank you so much, Magda,
who
for
is
sharing that thought.
contributing.
It surely is
Mary says that
alarming,
it would be great to have
and also
contact
inspiring
information
to
from
consider the
speakers
opportunities that lay ahead
and what
for the
is their
future,
ask to this
and especially the
community,
synergies
how
that
can
we
we
can
best
find
help?
between all of our parties.
And yes, I agree. We will
We have Hillary
all contact
Gooden shares
information available.
this content is quite
I believe that
valuable,
some of the
and I
speakers
am
have
glad
shared,
to
but
be
for those who
here
have
to
not,
partake
will make that
of the
information
knowledge being
public
shared.
with their consent.
Absolutely, Hillary.
Magda has
There's a
said
lot of
everything is
knowledge
going
power
great.
in here.
The topic of the discussion is
And
an
it's
alarming
really
thing
interesting
to bring on.
to hear
We
what
agree.
is being shared.
Thank you
and
so
at
much,
what
Magda,
level.
for sharing that thought.
I'm just going to
surely
check in
is
with Dr.
alarming.
Steele.
Have you
And
made
also
any
inspiring
progress
to
there,
consider the
sir?
Let me
opportunities that
hold
lay
on
ahead
one
in the
second.
future,
Let's see here.
and especially the synergies that we can find
might just-
between all of our parties. We have
Okay.
Hillary Gooden who shares
Mary,
this
we
content
noted
is
that you had
quite
to drop on a
valuable,
call, but
and I am
thank you
glad
so
to
much. And
be here
also,
to partake
for those of us who are still
of the knowledge being
participating,
shared.
note
Absolutely,
that it is
Hillary.
a live stream.
There's a lot of
currently
knowledge
on
power
YouTube.
in here.
If you'd like,
And
sorry,
it's really
I think I'm just
interesting
going to
to
share
hear what is being
I'll share
shared and at
the
what
link
level.
with you once again.
I'm just going to check in with
and
Dr.
feel
Ralph
free
Steele.
to
Have you
share
shared
this
this
presentation
presentation
on
on
your
your
platform
Let me hold
as
on
well
one second.
as on your social media? And note also that
I might just-
we are running the same session tomorrow.
Okay.
We will
Mary,
have a
we've
range
noted
of
that you have to
speakers
drop
for you
on a
to
call, but thank you so much. And
connect
also,
with.
for those of us who are still participating,
So
note
please
that
do join us again
it is a
tomorrow.
live stream currently on YouTube. If you'd like, sorry, I think I'm just going to share I'll share
another
the
comment
link
here.
with you once again in the chat box.
Phyllis
And
says,
feel free.
I'm excited to
to
share
share this
this to use
presentation
as I
on your
develop
platforms as well as
my
on
business.
social
I'm
media.
inspired because I'm
And
a
note
mature woman
also that
who has just started
we
my
are
business
running
near
the
60
same
years old.
session
That's
tomorrow.
incredible. Well done, Phyllis.
We will
We're
have
very
a
proud of
range
your
of
achievements
speakers
for you to
well done.
connect
Dr.
with.
Steele, are you good to go? Perhaps you should just
please
talk
do
through your
join us
talking
again
points
tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll just do that then.
Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm not getting. I'm not getting, but that's okay. So
another
we can.
comment here.
Can you hear me? Am I clear?
Phyllis says,
Absolutely.
I'm excited
Go
to
ahead.
glean from the summit
Okay,
to
so
use as I
I'm gonna
develop
go ahead and talk through it. And
my
the
business.
title
I'm
of my
inspired because I'm a
presentation
mature
today
woman
is
who has just
creative
started my business
economics,
near 60 years
growth
old.
and
That's
expansion.
incredible. Well done, Phyllis.
Creative
We're very proud of
economics,
your achievement.
growth and
So,
expansion.
well
And
done.
when you look
Dr.
at social
Steele, are you good to
entrepreneurship
go?
can advance
Perhaps you should just
women's role
talk through
using
your
the
talking
lens of
points.
business and ownership.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
The role of women in
Thank you
business
so much.
and the
Wonderful.
world,
Yeah, I'm not
and
getting it.
especially in Africa,
I'm not
can
getting it, but
advance
that's okay.
with
So
strategic
we
goals
can-
of growth.
can you
hear me? Am I clear?
Absolutely.
Strategic
Go
goals
ahead.
of growth and expansion.
Okay, so
in the
I'm gonna go
21st
ahead
century,
and,
every
talk
business
through it,
must
and the
penetrate
title of my
financial
presentation
inclusion
today
especially
is creative
for
economics,
women
growth
entrepreneurs.
and expansion.
So business growth,
creative
what is
economics,
business growth and expansion.
business
and
growth
when you
is the
look at
normal
social
business
entrepreneurship
life cycle,
can advance
stages of growth,
women's role
business
using the
owner's
lens of
goals
business
and
and
objectives,
ownership. The
wealth
role
creation,
of women in business
monetary
and the
profits.
world, and especially in
Business
Africa,
growth
can
is
advance
crucial
with
to the
strategic
long-term
goals of
survival
growth of business.
uh,
The sustainability
strategic
of goals
businesses.
of growth and
It makes it
expansion.
easier
in the
to acquire
21st century,
assets,
every business
attract new
must
talent,
penetrate
and find
financial
investments.
inclusion, especially
the business
for
has
women
a level
entrepreneurs.
of growth
and
sustainability.
So business growth.
It also
what is business
drives
growth?
business performance and
business
profits,
growth
because
is the normal
that's what business is
life
about.
cycle, stages of growth.
Being in business,
The business
to
owners
make
goals
profits
and objectives.
So the main
wealth
purpose
creation,
of any business,
monetary
is to make
profits.
Every
Business growth
company
is
should
crucial
have a
to the
business
long-term
plan,
survival
or
of business.
they should have
The
a business growth
sustainability
plan
of businesses,
and a
it makes
strategic
it
plan
easier to acquire
finding
assets,
specifically
attract
how
new
they are
talent,
going to grow
and find
to
investments.
become a sustainable
the business
business.
has a level
And if
of
a
growth
business
and
is
sustainability,
in business,
it
and they
also
don't have a
drives
business growth plan
performance
in
and
order
profits,
to
because
become a
that's what business
sustainable
is about.
business,
being
then
in business
it's
to
really not
make
even
profits.
necessary to even
So the
start
main
the
purpose
business.
of any
And
business,
even
folks,
those
is to make
in Africa
profits. Or women,
every
or
company
whoever
should have
has a
business
plan,
without
question,
question.
they should
has
have
to
a
have
business,
if you
growth
will,
plan,
that
sustainable
strategic
business
plan
growth
defining
plan
specifically
in order for
how
that
they are
person
going
or
to
that
grow
business
to
to
become
sustain
a
itself
sustainable
and actually
business.
be a business
And
of
if a
long
business
term
is
essence
in
for the
business and
community
they don't have a
that
business
business is
growth
in,
plan,
and
in
especially
order
on the
to
continent
become
of
a
Africa.
sustainable
Business, then
Now,
it's really not even necessary to even start the business. And even those in Africa,
there are four
women
types of
or
business
whoever
growth.
has a business,
There's what's called the
without
organic
question
type of
has
business,
to have,
the
if you
strategic
will,
type
that
of growth,
sustainable
the internal type
business
of growth
plan,
and then
in
on
order
a much
for
larger
that
scale
scale
of
that
folks,
business
there's
to
acquisition
sustain
and
itself
mergers
and
and
actually be a
business,
in business
long
growth like
term.
that. Now, the
essence
business
for
for
the
the community
includes
that business is in,
and
market
especially
development on the continent
product
of
development,
Africa, marketing strategies. In the
now,
business growth model, and you can have different business growth model, but the business growth
there are
model
four types of
must
business
be a
growth.
model
There's
that
what's
is
called the
duplicated
organic type of business,
and with the
the
product or
strategic
services
type
provided,
of growth,
eventually
the internal
and
type of growth,
increasingly, and
where
then
gains
on
and
a much
acceptance
larger
with
scale,
consumers,
folks,
there's
the
acquisition
specific
and
industry,
mergers,
the country's
and
general
that,
public,
or
in
the
business
international
growth like
market
that.
as well.
Now, the
In
business
order
growth
to be
model
sustainable.
Market
product
development
services with
product
innovation
development
becomes
accepted in the market,
marketing
and as a
strategy.
result,
In the
sales
business
services
growth
revenue
model,
begin,
and you can have
or
different
can
business
begin
growth
to
model,
increase, but the
which is
business
what
growth
every
model
business
must be
desires
to
model
have
that is
an
duplicated,
increase in sales
make
and
more
with the
profit,
product or services
become
provided,
the business that
eventually
everybody
and
knows
increasingly
about.
where gains
In other
and
words, is,
acceptance with
I don't
consumers,
care whether it's the
the
United
Pacific
States,
industry,
wherever it
the
is,
country's
and even
general
in
public,
Africa,
or the
a
international
woman's
market
business
as
needs to
well,
become
in order
the
to be
business
that when
sustainable.
people look at the television,
the
they
product or services
listen
with
to the
innovation
radio, or they
becomes
looking
accepted
in the
all
market,
of the different
and as a
type of
result,
marketing,
sales, services,
signs,
revenue,
and advertisement
begin
across the country,
or can
the
begin
continent,
to increase,
they know
which is
that,
what
look, you know
every
what?
business
These are
desires
professional
to
African
have
women and
business,
increasing sales, make more
this is
profits,
how
become
in
the
business.
business
If
that
not, everybody
business,
knows about.
it's just not going to happen.
In other words,
folks. And so that's just
I
the
don't
way
care
it
whether
has
it's
to
the
be.
United States,
Now,
wherever it is, and even in Africa,
a businesswoman
a
has
woman's
to know,
business needs to become,
and
these
the
are some
business
things
that when
people
really
look
what,
at their television,
some
they
specific things,
listen to the radio,
I don't want to
they're
just
looking
be
at
theoretical
all of
today.
the
I want to
different
also
type
be
of
somewhat
marketing
practical.
signs
And
so a
advertisement
businesswoman
across
has
the
to
country,
know,
the
one,
continent, they
who is
know
your
that,
target
look,
consumers?
understanding
These are
the client's
professional
needs
African
and
women
create
in
products and
business
services
that
because
meet the needs
this
of
is
the
how
client.
you do
Ask
in
them
business
what
not
they
the
need.
business.
Even if you're doing just
folks.
a simple
And so that's
survey,
just the way it has to be.
or needs
Now,
analysis. So people, a businesswoman
will tell
has
you what
to
they
know.
need.
And so now you're
And these are
marketing
some things
and
that
working your
really
business
would,
in the best
some
interest of your
specific
own
things, 'cause
consumer or your
I don't want
client.
to just be
Number
theoretical
two,
today. I want to
a
also be
businesswoman
somewhat
has
practical.
to know. And so a businesswoman
Offer
has
great
to know,
customer service.
one,
Okay,
who is your target consumers?
maintaining
the
excellent
client's
customer
needs
service,
and create
because
products
the
and services
customers
that
is
meet
the
the
reason
needs
why
of the client.
any business,
Ask them
your
what
business
they
will
need.
start, grow,
Even if
and
you're doing just
expand.
a
The
simple
client
survey,
is
a valuable
you know,
source
or
for your
needs
business
analysis.
sustainability.
So people,
because
will tell you what they need.
why are
and
you
so
in
now
business?
you're marketing
Why
and
anybody's
working your
in
business
and
in
even
the best
women
interest
is
of your own
because
consumer
of the
or your
customer.
client. Because
Number two,
there is a
businesswoman
that
needs
has
to
to
know,
you know what I mean, taking
offer
care
great
of.
customer service.
The
The
businesswoman
businesswoman has to get to know also
maintaining excellent
nurture
customer service
existing
because
customers
the
while
customer
seeking
is the
new
reason
opportunities.
why
In
any
other words,
business,
folks, your
developing
business will
strategies
start
to
grow
nurture
and expand.
existing customers.
The
will
client
follow
is a valuable
process-
source for your business
sustainability
to build
because
a strong
customer
why are you in
base.
business?
Because without
Why
a strong
anybody's in business,
customer
and
base,
even women,
now
is
you will
because of the
impede
customer progress.
because
Specifically,
there is
when
a
you're talking
need
about
that
sustainability,
needs to be, you know what I mean,
taken care of. The businesswoman has to get to
Now,
know also.
a businesswoman
also needs to
nurture
know existing
for
customers while
the
seeking
market with
new
all the
opportunities.
social
In other
media
words,
as well as
developing
what we
strategies
call
to nurture
the
existing
typical
customers
referral
with
service
follow-up
of existing
process-
clients.
I'm
You know
sorry,
what I mean?
processes to build a
Those of you who have been in
strong
business 5, 10, and
customer
20 years
base,
know,
because
and it doesn't
without a
matter whether you're in the
strong
United States,
customer
Africa,
base,
China,
now you
Russia,
will
Japan,
impede
or wherever you are.
progress specifically
We
when you're
know,
talking
and
about
you know that
sustainability. The actual mouth-to-mouth referral services
Now,
a
it's great.
businesswoman also
I mean,
needs
yes,
to
social
know
media is a
for
powerful marketing resource
the market
to promote
anybody's
social
business,
media,
you know,
as
what I mean,
well
to
as
thousands and millions
what
of
we
potential
call
clients.
but
The
the
typical
referral
day-to-day
service of existing
uh,
clients.
referrals,
You know what I
is
mean?
one of the best ways.
Those
That,
of
you
you
know,
who
what I
have
mean,
been in
people can
business 5,
sustain
10, and 20
their
years
business.
know, and it doesn't matter
A
whether you're in the
businesswoman
United
also
States,
needs to
Africa,
know
China, Russia,
is attend
Japan, or
networking
wherever you
events,
are,
which means that
we
investing
know, and
time
you
in
know
lasting relationship become the
the
network
actual
of every
mouth-to-mouth
business.
referral services.
Most people
It's
purchase from
great.
individuals and
I mean,
businesses
yes,
they
social
know
media
and
is
like.
a powerful
They get
marketing
along
resource
with
to promote
they anybody's
understand,
business, their
you know what I mean, to
personality,
thousands
they
and millions of
understand their
potential
business
clients, but
culture,
the typical
they understand the business
day-to-day
community, and so
referrals.
this
is
is
one of the
why
best
attending
ways
networking
that,
events,
you know what I mean, people
definitely
can sustain their
and again,
business.
these are some very
A businesswoman
practical
also needs
things,
to know,
you know what I mean, because a
is
lot of
attend
times
networking
people
events,
look
which
over
means
the
that
very
investing
obvious
time
when
and
lasting
we talk about
relationship
being in business.
become
A
the
businesswoman
network
also
of every
needs to know,
business. Initiate
most people
and
host
host
new
from
events,
individuals and business
hosting
they
business
know and
socials
like.
with your best
They get along
existing
with.
customers and
They
potential
understand
clients.
their
It's one of the most
personalities.
creative
They understand their
to
business
retain
culture.
old,
They
but
understand
also
the business
receive
community. And
new
so
clients, new customers,
this is why
new
attending
markets, new
networking events
opportunities, new
definitely
industries.
helps. And again, these
and
are
again,
some very
sustain
practical things,
your
you know what I
business,
mean? Because a lot of
your
times
business
people
has to be
look
sustainable.
over the very
If you
obvious
want to be
when,
in business,
when we
in
talk
other
about
words,
being
folks,
in business. A businesswoman also
ideally
need to know
why go into
initiate and
and
host
you
new
only stay in
events.
business 1 to
Hosting
3
business
years.
socials with your
That
best
makes no sense.
existing customers and potential
Go into
clients
business
is one of the
stay
most
in
creative ways 10, 20, 30,
old
and
but
50
also
years and
receive
new
so
clients, new
my
customers,
ideal
new
even
markets,
women
new
business,
opportunities,
that those
new
businesses
industries
become
and
generational
again,
wealth business. In other words,
sustain your
these
business,
women's businesses
because
are
your
also
business has
passed
to be
down
sustainable.
to the sons and
If you
daughters
want to be
from
in
one
business, in
to
other words,
three
folks,
generations or
my
more,
ideal
because they are
is why
sustainable.
go into business?
And I mean,
That
and you
is
only
so
spend
very,
business
very
1 to 3
important.
years. That
And
makes
then
no
the next
sense.
thing a woman
Needs
go
to know
into
in
business
business
to
stay
develop
in business,
professional partnerships,
10,
that
20,
are mutually,
30,
monetarily,
and 50 years
profitable.
In fact,
A lot of
so
times, my
partnerships,
ideal is
even
even with
myself,
women
I've been in
business,
business
that
20
those
some years,
businesses become
I have so
generational
many business
wealth business.
partners.
In other words,
And those
these women
businesses
businesses are
also
also not
passed
just
down
know
through the
somebody,
sons
but
and
they
daughters
are
from
part
1
of the
to
core
3 generations
of
or more,
making more
because they are sustainable profits.
And I mean, that is so very,
participating
very
in various community
And
profit
then the next thing a
partners
woman
needs
invites
to know
new
in
partnerships,
businesses,
develop
new business
professional
friends
partnerships, but
that are
also
mutually,
folks,
monetarily
it invites
profitable.
greater
A lot of times
opportunities and
partnerships,
business,
even myself,
and
that
in
I've been
many
in business
cases,
20 some
businesses
years,
that you will never even
I have
imagine
so many business
because of the
partners,
partnership
and those
that
business
you are
partnerships
developing.
have,
You know what I mean?
are
In
not
business.
just I know somebody, but they are
And
part
then
of the
8
core
is evaluate what works, making more
processes when
needed to maintain quality.
participating with
Evaluating
various
both your
community
customers'
profits,
needs and
partners,
your customers'
invites
service
new partnerships
is a creative
and
way
new
to
business
monitor,
friends,
refine,
but also
and
folks,
measure
it
whether
invites
your goals are
greater
successful.
opportunities.
Because if your goals
in
are not
business,
successful,
and
then
in many
now
cases,
you can come
businesses
back
that
and
you will
tweak
never
them,
even imagine,
improve them, change
because
them,
of the
transform them,
partnership
and
that you
know
are
what?
developing.
Make
You know what I mean?
business
In business,
that's outstanding. A business that is
and then 8
successful.
is
Evaluate
this is
what works
what
and refine
makes
processes
business
when
become
needed to maintain
sustainable.
quality. Evaluating
that's what,
both your customers' needs
and that
and your
brings me to the
customer
next point
service
is
a creative way
my
to
presentation
monitor,
is
refine,
a
and
successful
measure
business.
whether your goals
What
are
is a successful business?
Because
We have
if
to
your
keep in
goals are
mind
not
with
successful,
what
then
makes a
now you can
business
come back
successful.
and tweak them,
Businesses that are
improve them,
successful, big and
change them,
small,
transform
need
them,
excellent
and you know
management
what?
from the very
Make
top to
a
the very
business
bottom.
that's
To ordinary
outstanding.
people.
A business that
Shift
is successful,
successful.
quality leaders.
This is
People
what
who provide quality,
makes business
impactful
become
communication.
folks,
A natural
sustainable.
company
And that's
culture
what,
with clear goals
and
defined,
that brings me to the
objectives,
next point.
and a clear mission
in,
and vision
my
for the
presentation is
company.
a
that
successful
every single person
business.
that works for the company
What is a successful
understand,
business?
knows it. We have to
And
keep in
actually
mind with
works
what
and makes
that
a
life.
business successful.
Now, businesses that
Successful
are successful,
companies
big and
always
small,
have
need excellent
management
customers from the very
market
top to the very
bottom.
meaning customers
ordinary
are the everything to any
shift
business.
supervisors.
The people your
Quality
business
leaders,
serves are the
people who
most
provide quality,
important,
part
impactful
of your
communication.
business.
A natural
So
company
businesses you can help
culture with
transition
clear goals, define
women as
objectives,
great
and a clear
consumers
mission
as
and
well as
vision
great
for the
producers,
company,
as well as
every
great
single person
business
that works for the company
women,
understand, knows
business
it, people,
and
corporate
actually
women,
works in
professional
that
women,
life.
just like
Now,
any man or any company.
Successful
You
companies
know what I mean?
always
It
have
is what it is. So,
customer
successful
market
companies always have, meaning
the
customers
value
are
of the marketplace.
everything to any
Central
business.
to business.
The people your business
is making
serves
your
are the
clients feel
most
valued
important part
so
of
your
business will prosper.
So
A
businesses you
unique
can help
business.
transition
What makes your business
women
a woman's
as great
business unique?
consumers
As
your-
well as great
your
well
producers,
thought out, as
statements,
well as helping
great
your company
business,
distinguish your business
women,
from other
business people.
In other words,
corporate
making
women,
your
professional
business
women,
unique,
just like any
to
man or
solve
any
difficult
company.
problem
You
or
know what I mean?
problem.
It is
But
what
your
it is.
business has the
So,
solution.
successful
Takes care of the
always
need
have
and
the
remove
value
the
of the
customer's
marketplace.
pain or
Central
whatever
to
they
business
need in order
that
that is
making your
critical
clients feel
to
valued and
business
important.
growth. So
It
your
is
also
also
critical, folks,
prosper.
to
A
business
unique
expansion.
business.
What
Being
makes your
able
business
as a
business
woman business
to
unique.
take care of people,
Your
critical
your
needs,
well
and also
thought out
their
statements
pains and their
helping
realities.
your company
Distinguish
so
your business from others
In other words, making
a growing
business is one
unique
that is expanding.
to solve a
See,
difficult
it's one
problem
issue
or
to grow a
problem,
business,
but your
it's a
business has
greater
the solution,
issue
takes
to
care of the need,
expand
and
a business.
removes
In
the
other words, what
customer's
I'm
pain
saying today is
or
this.
whatever they need.
When you
in
go
order
into
that
business,
is
and especially
critical
those of you
to
who have
business
dreams
growth.
and desires, women,
It is
men,
also
or whoever
critical,
you are,
folks, to business
when you go into
expansion.
business, being
You don't
able
just
as a
go
business
into
business to take care
You go
of
into
people
business
critical
with the
needs, but
ethos and the
also
thought,
their
the
pain
preparation,
and
the
their
planning
realities.
already from day
so
one.
with your business on a growing
A
plane,
growing
in
business
order
is one that
it
is
will grow, but
expanding.
also see,
with
it's one issue to grow a
perspective
business,
that
but it's a
your
greater
business is not
issue
only just growing,
to
but it will
expand
also
a
at
business.
one point,
In other words, what I'm
it will
saying
be
today
expanding.
is this. When
In
you
one
go
or more
into
ways
business,
than
especially
you
those
can
of you
imagine,
who have dreams and
does your
desires,
business
women,
have more
men,
than
or one
whoever
stream
you
of
are?
income,
When you go into
does your
business,
business
you
have
don't just go
byproducts?
into business.
There
You
is
go into
no
business
single
with the
metric to
ethos and
measure
the
growth.
thought, the
Rather,
preparation,
there are
the
several
planning
data
already
and
from day
research
one
that
with your
inform and
business
shows
on a
us that a
growing
business is
plane
growing and
in order
expanding.
that
But
it
what
will
is
grow,
the
but
difference
also
between growth
with
and
a
expansion?
perspective. One
That
of the
your
critical
business
issues
not
is
only just
a lot of
growing,
times,
but it
people
will
don't
also at
understand
one point
the difference, folks,
it will
between
be
growth
expanding
and expansion
in one or more
and
ways
so
than you can
a
imagine.
business can grow in some
Does your business
ways
have more
that
than one
you
stream
can
of
measure
income?
it, but also
Does
a
your
business
business have
must
byproducts?
grow, but also
There is
expand.
no single
How do you
metric to
understand
measure
the
growth.
difference?
Rather,
When
there
a
are
business
several
grows
data
to the
and
extent
research
that
that
the
informs
revenue
and shows us that a
profits
business is
can
growing
grow
and
with
expanding.
an
But what is
increase
the difference
in
between
monetary
growth
gain,
and
then the
expansion?
business is
One of the
actually
critical
shifting
issues is
from
a
just
lot of
growing,
times people
folks,
don't
to
understand
expanding.
the difference, folks,
And
between
therefore,
growth
it is
and
imperative
expansion.
to have some
And
type
so
of metric system
a
to
business can
measure
grow in
and
some
evaluate your
ways
business
that
between
you can
growth
measure it
and expansion.
but also
One
a
important
business
issue is
must
every
grow,
company
but
needs
also
to have
expand.
a measure
How
of
do you
consistent
understand the
growth
difference? On a
when a
consistent
business
basis,
grows
in
to the
order
extent
to
that
understand
the revenue,
business
the
is moving
profits
and
can
shifting
grow from just
with an
growing,
increase
having more customers
and monetary
and
gain,
also
then
moving
the
to
business
expansion.
is actually
And
shifting.
what happens
from
is just growing, folks,
you can have a
expanding.
business, folks,
And
that may
therefore,
not
it is
have new
imperative
customers,
to
but the
have
business
some
still
type
can
of
grow.
metric system
Well,
to
what do you mean
measure
by that?
and
Well,
evaluate
the
your
business can
business
grow
because
because
the growth
the
and
already
expansion.
existing
One
customers
important
that you
issue
have is
of
every
buying
company
more
needs to
that you are
have
providing them
a
more
measure of
services.
consistent growth,
But
on a
the
consistent
expansion
basis
comes
in
when
order
you move to
to
more
understand that the
opportunities,
business is
more
moving
services,
and shifting
and more
from just growing,
byproducts and
having
things
more
that you're
customers,
helping
and
the
also
business grow.
moving to
Now, I
expansion.
have a few
And
recommendations,
what
and
happens
then I
is
will end my presentation.
you can
And
have
a
a
business,
few
folks,
recommendations that I
may
think
not have new
can be
customers,
very
but the
helpful,
business still
not
can
only
grow.
for anyone
Well,
in business,
what do
but
you mean by that?
specifically
Well,
for
the
African women
business
and
can grow
organizations
because
for
the
starting,
the
growing,
already
and
existing
expanding
customers
their
that you
business.
have are
And here
buying
are some
more,
of those
that
recommendations.
you are providing them more services.
Number one, I highly recommend
but
that
the
there be a
expansion
national
comes when you
African
move to
economic
more
plan
opportunities,
for economic
more
growth
services,
and expansion of
and
businesses,
more
including women
byproducts
businesses.
and things
The
that
national
you're
African
helping
economic
the
plan
business grow.
is
Now,
not
I
a
have
mandatory
a few
plan
recommendations, and then
where
I will end
someone
my
is
presentation
controlling some
and
other country
a
or
few
business.
recommendations
That's not
that
what
I
I'm
think
talking about.
can
Folks,
be
what I'm
very
talking about
helpful,
is
not only
a
for anyone in
national
business, but
African
specifically for
economic
African
plan
women and
of
organizations
economic
for
growth and
starting,
expansion
growing, and expanding
based upon
their
business.
quality business
And here are some of those
relationship
recommendations.
and partnership.
Number one,
So that
I highly
people
recommend
have
that there be
women
a
have
national
a
African
vision,
economic
a
plan
strategic
for economic
plan
growth and
that
expansion
it
of
leads
businesses,
to
including
nothing
women
else.
businesses. The
They
National
have
African Economic Plan
ideals
is not a
professionally
mandatory
that are
plan
already been
where
researched,
someone is
they've been
controlling
tested,
some
they
other
have been
country or
modeled
business.
in
That's not
past
what I'm talking
history,
about.
that
Folks,
they
what
can
I'm
take
talking
these
about
plans and
is a
use them
national
and start,
African
grow, and
economic plan
expand
for
their
economic
businesses
growth and
all
expansion
over the entire
based
continent
upon
of
quality
Africa.
business relationship
Number two,
and partnership,
so that people
Number two
have
is women
the
have
second
a
recommendation
vision is to create what I call a
BCC.
that it
What is
leads
that?
to nothing
A
else.
business
They
certification
have
course
ideals
that trains and
professionally
certifies women
that are
to
already
start
been
and
researched.
sustain
They've been
their
tested
business
through
there have
proper
been
professional
models and
business
past
knowledge
history
and wisdom
that they can
And
take
if
these
that
plans
is done,
and use
then
them
now you
and
can
start
take a woman
grow
just like
and
you can take
expand
anybody.
their businesses
And
all
after
over
they are
the
properly
entire
trained,
continent.
they
of
can
Africa.
operate a business from start to
Number
finish
two,
every day, each day,
number
365
two
days
one of
out
the
of
second
the year,
recommendation
and be
not
is to
only
create what I
effective,
call a
but be
BCC.
efficient
What is
and
that?
be
Sustainable.
a business certification
Number
course
three,
that trains and
we need
certifies
to,
women
and
these
these
are
are
collaborative
collaborative global
their
things
business
that we need
through
to do, not
proper
just
professional
Africa, but
business
also
knowledge
work
and
with
wisdom.
Africa. And
Is
if
to
that is
create
done,
what I
then
call
now
a
you can take a woman
BEF.
just like you
So
take
what is a
anybody,
BEF?
and
It is a
after they are
business
properly
endowment fund
they can
that
operate a
assists
business from
women
start
in
to finish
funding
every
and
day,
providing
each day,
capital money
365
for
days
new and
out of
existing
the year,
businesses
and be
in
not
Africa
only
for the sole
effective,
purpose, but be
that
efficient
when a woman
and be
opens and starts a
sustainable.
business, that business can
Number
go
three,
10, 20,
we
30
need
years,
to,
and
and
these are
it
collaborative
has a
global
level
things that we
of
need to do, not just in
sustainability,
Africa, but also
period.
work with Africa,
And
is
then
to create what I call a BEF.
I got a few more.
So
and
what
then
is a
I'll be
BEF?
finished.
It
And
is
then
a
four
business
is continue to
endowment
have
fund,
the annual
that
foundation
assists women in
funding
annual
and providing
every
capital
year to
money
support and develop
for
African women
new and
in business
existing businesses
as an
in
advocate,
Africa for the sole purpose.
Number five,
That
create
when a
an
woman opens and
entrepreneurship
starts
group
a business
as an
that business
infrastructure
can go
to build
10,
a
20,
new generation
30 years
of
and
women
it is entrepreneurs. It has a
and
level
because
of
without
sustainability.
infrastructure, it makes
Period.
it harder.
And
For
then,
instance, if a woman came to anyone and said, "Well, how do
got
I
a few
start a
more and
business?
then I'll
What
be
do I
finished.
do?" And
Who do I
then four
turn
is
to?
continue to have,
if you
the
have,
annual
if we can help
foundation
develop
annual
more infrastructure
summer every year
now
to
that gives
support and
women
develop
places
African women
in places
and
of
they can
business
go
as
and
an
develop
business.
advocacy.
And that's just
Number
and then
five,
number six
create
is
an
create
entrepreneurship
a
group
women's business
as an
support group
infrastructure
to assist
to
women
build a
and
new
become a
generation
successful
in
of
business
women
in order to
entrepreneurs.
develop
More
and because
thousands
without
and millions
infrastructure,
of
it makes
like-minded
it harder
business women.
in
For instance,
order
if a
that
woman
they
came
all
to anyone and said, "Well,
you
how do I
increase
start a business?
the
What do I
percentage
do?"
of
Who do I
successful
turn to?
women in business.
If we can help
And
develop
then finally,
more infrastructure
folks,
now that gives women
the
places
last
and places that they can go
and then I'll be
and
finished,
develop
business.
develop networking
And that's
and
just,
partnership
and then
with
number
banks
six
and other
is
lending
create a
institutions
women's
to
business
create
support
micro
group
loans
to
for
assist women
to borrow
and
money
become
for
a
the business,
successful in business
especially
in order
for
to
business
develop
expansion.
more
For women to have
thousands and
more
millions
business
of
opportunities
like-minded
and
business
networking
women
in
and
order
that
in
they
a what I
all
call an
you increase
interdependent
the
way,
percentage
in other words,
of successful
another
women
way of having
in business.
collaboration
And then
excellence
finally,
in order that women
folks,
too can be very,
the
very
last recommendation
successful
I have,
in
and then I'll be
business.
finished, is
And
develop
therefore,
networking,
you know what I mean, the whole
partnership with
thing
banks and
about
other is this
lending
here.
institutions to create micro
Growth
loans
and
for women to
expansion,
borrow money
being
for the
creative,
business,
and I
especially
end with this
for
man,
business
because
expansion.
if
For women to
if
have more
a
business
woman right
opportunities
now
and
goes into
networking
business
and in a
I
what
want to
I
see her
call an
business grow
interdependent way,
and
in
be
other words,
expanded
another way of
and be
having
long term
collaboration
and develop
and
generational
excellence
wealth
in order that
and be
women too
successful.
can be
Ladies
very,
and gentlemen,
very
I want to thank you
successful
for
in business.
giving me
And
the
it's
honor to
therefore,
present this
you know what I mean, the whole
presentation
thing
today
about is
on
this here,
creative economics,
and
social
expansion,
entrepreneurship,
being
for
creative.
African women
And I end with
in
this
business.
saying,
I want
because
to thank you
if
very, very much.
if a woman right now
Wonderful. Thank
goes
you
into
so
business,
much, Dr. Steele.
I want to see
That
her
was a
business
really engaging
grow
presentation.
and be
You didn't even need a
expanded
PowerPoint slide because we
and
were
be
all
long
very
term
attentive.
and develop
And
generational wealth
there's quite a number
and be
of
successful.
interesting concepts that
Ladies
you
and gentlemen,
raised. And
I
I'm
want to
sure
thank
that the
you for
audience will
giving me the
will have
honor to
a
present
number of
this
questions to you.
presentation
But
today
before we move to the Q&A
on
for Dr.
creative
Steele,
economics,
I just
growth
want
and
to give
expansion,
Dr.
social
Kelly and
entrepreneurship
Dr.
for
Kelly
African women
the heads up that he
in
is our
business.
next speaker.
I want to thank
And
you
following
very,
him,
very
we will
much.
have Dr. Funia, who will be the speaker after
Wonderful.
him.
Thank
and
you
we will
so
then
much,
close.
Dr. Steele.
So I
That
would
was
love
a
to
really
open the
engaging
opportunity for
presentation.
questions to Dr.
You
Steele.
didn't even
We
need
have
a
a comment
PowerPoint slide
from
because we were
Hillary
all very
Gooden to say
attentive.
Dr. Ralph Steele.
And thank you
There's
for such
quite
an
a number
inspiring
of
talk,
interesting concepts
with many
that he
nuggets.
raised.
We
And
have
I'm
Phyllis
sure that the
Weaver who
audience
says, Dr.
will,
Steele, great
will
presentation.
have a
Thank
number
you
of
for the
questions for you.
information.
But before we move to the Q&A
Kaniki
for Dr.
says, thank you,
Steele,
Dr.
I just
Steele.
want to give
And Shante
Dr.
Paul
Kelly
says,
and
very powerful and
Dr.
helpful.
Kelly
Thank
the
you so
third,
much,
the heads
Dr.
up that
Ralph
he is
Steele.
our next speaker. And following him,
I will
we
give it a
have
minute or
Dr.
so to see
Funia,
if there's any
who will be
questions.
the speaker
But
after him,
this
and we will
is
then close.
So
this is really good.
I would love to
we
open the
thoroughly enjoyed
opportunity
your
for questions to Dr.
We do
Steele.
have a request.
We
for
have
your
a comment
contact information,
from
Dr.
Hillary
Steele.
Gooden to
If you
say,
could
Dr.
perhaps
Ralph
put
Steele,
that into the chat
thank
box,
you for
that would
such
be
an
great.
inspiring talk.
And we have
with many
Magda
nuggets.
Kalinki saying
have
that
Phyllis
Dr.
Weaver
Steele
who says,
is my
Dr.
role
Steele,
model.
great presentation.
Wonderful.
Thank you for the information.
Dr. Kelly is
Magda
unfortunately not
Kaniki
able
says,
to
thank
join
you,
us
Dr.
as the
Steele.
speaker.
And Shante Paul says, very
as the
powerful
next
and
speaker.
helpful.
But
Thank you
if
so
we
much,
could
Dr.
maybe
Ralph
request
Steele.
Dr. Margaret Funia to take
I
on
will
that
give it a
role
minute or so to
as the
see if
next
there's any
speaker, that would be
questions.
amazing.
But this is
This
thank
is
you
really
so
good.
much, Dr.
We
Steele.
thoroughly enjoyed your
We
talk.
really appreciate
We
the
do have
value
a
and the
request
input
for
that
your
you
contact
provided.
information, Dr.
And
Steele.
if you
We're
could
ready to
perhaps
move
put
on
that
to
into the chat
Dr.
box, that
Margaret
would be great.
Funia.
I will
Thank
do
you
it.
very
We
much.
have
Magda Kalinki
saying
I'm
that
going
Dr.
to do a
Steele
quick
is my
introduction to
role
Dr.
model.
Funia. Just
Wonderful.
one moment while I grab my notes.
Dr. Kelly is unfortunately
not able to join us as a speaker. As the next speaker, but if we could maybe
Dr.
request
Funia
Dr.
is
Margaret
the
Funia
author
to
of
take
The
on that
Colours
role
of Power,
as the next speaker, that would
Soaring
be
to
amazing.
Greatness.
So preparing
thank
for
you
the
so much,
harvest,
Dr. Steele.
planting good,
We
good
really
seeds for the
appreciate the
kingdom,
value
and
and the
Mary
input that
Koala
you
goes to
provided.
hospice.
And
The koala family
we're
faces
ready
a
to move on to
Dr.
terminal illness.
Margaret Funia.
Dr. Funia
I
is a
will
Thank you very
co-host
much.
of Sean Fair Leadership.
I'm going to do a quick
An
introduction to Dr.
international
Funia.
speaker
Just one
for
moment
the
while I
Sean
grab
Fair
my
Leadership
notes.
Conference and
The host of her digital television show entitled Healing and
Dr.
Power with Dr.
Funia.
Margaret. And Health and
Dr.
Healing with
Funia
Dr. Margaret.
is the author
She is
of
CEO
The
and
Colours
owner
of
of
Color of
Power,
Power.
Soaring to
The
Greatness.
logo of her company is Healing and Power.
Preparing for
Her
the
shows
harvest,
create
planting
platforms to
good seed
motivate,
for the kingdom,
dedicate,
and Mary Koala
and
goes to
educate the
hospice.
family,
The koala
community,
family
and the
faces
world
on
the
a
healing
terminal illness.
process. Dr. Funia is a co-host of Sean Fair
Dr. Funia
Leadership,
is affectionately
consulting
known
group,
as the
an
Colonel
international speaker
because of her
for the
exceptional
Sean Fair
leadership
Leadership
skills
Conference
and
and
attention to
the host
detail
of her
while
digital
serving the
television show
army,
entitled
Healing
Serving
and
in the
Power
Army Nurse
with
Corps.
Dr. Margaret.
And Health and
Dr.
Healing with
Funia
Dr.
has
Margaret.
served 27 years
She
in
is
the Army Nurse
CEO
Corps,
and owner of
retiring in
Color of
2012
Power.
with the
The
rank
logo
of
of her
Lieutenant
company
Colonel.
is Healing and Power.
And with that,
Her
I will hand
shows
over to
create
Dr. Funia
platforms to
Thank you.
motivate, dedicate, and educate the family, community,
Well, hello, everyone.
and the
I am
world
just
on
so
the healing
thrilled to be a
process.
part of this summit and all the great speakers
Dr.
that have
Funia
come
is
before me and
affectionately
those
known
that
as the
will follow
Colonel
me.
because of her
I am a
exceptional
lieutenant
leadership
colonel. I
skills
retired in
and attention to
2012.
detail while
And
serving the
for
Army.
those of you who don't know it,
Is serving in the Army
being
Nurse
Black,
Corps.
being a woman,
Dr. Funia
and
has
being
served
an
27
officer
years in the
in
Army Nurse
any
Corps,
of our
retiring in
services
2012
are
with the rank of
obstacles.
Lieutenant
Because
Colonel.
first of all,
And with that, I
the
will hand over
military,
to
no
Dr.
matter how you
Funia.
look at it,
Thank
is still a
you.
man's work. I grew up
Well, hello,
as a
everyone.
sharecropper's daughter. My
so
mother and
thrilled to be a
father,
part of
they
this
raised
summit
14
and all the
children.
great speakers that
And
have
so
gone
before
before
me
me
in
and those
Tennessee
that will
and
follow me,
being a sharecropper's daughter,
I
when we
am
were
a
still
lieutenant colonel. I
we don't
retired in
have money.
2012.
In order
And
for you
for
to
those
get
of
out
you
of
who
here
don't
and
know
to
it,
do things,
being
because we're
Black,
at a small town,
being a woman,
you have
and
to
being
use
an officer
in
your head.
any of our services.
And we were very,
are
very
obstacles. smart. Because
All
first
of
of
us,
all, we're
the
students,
military,
no matter
valedictorians,
how you look at it, it's still a man's world.
salutatorians. And so they
I grew
instilled
up
in us, in order
as a
for you to make
sharecropper's
it,
daughter.
you
My
have to
mother
use your
and
head.
father,
You
they
have to
raised
get more
14
than the
children.
person And so
that's sitting
growing up
next
in
to you,
Tennessee,
no
and-
matter
and
what color,
being a sharecropper's daughter,
and
you were
so
instilled that at the
we
age
don't
of
have
15,
money.
in
I
order
left
for
home
you to get out of
and
here
went to live
and to
in
do
Chicago,
things,
because
now
we're
being
at
a
a
Southern
small
girl,
town.
first time
You
being in
have
Chicago,
to
those tall
use
buildings,
your
there
head.
I was. You could
And
tell
we
I
were
was country.
very,
I had
very
on
smart.
a dress.
All of
and-
us
and socks
were A students
and
valedictorians.
shoes. I mean, so looked
Salutatorians.
upon, laughed upon, but still.
And so they
My
instilled in
parents
us, in order for
instilled
you
in
to
me
make it, you have to use
that
your
the
head.
Lord, you have to
will
get
guide
more
you
than the
through.
person
That's sitting
that
next
if you
to you,
put
no
him
matter
first,
what color.
no weapon formed against
so,
you will ever prosper.
At the age of 15,
So with
I
that,
left
I
home
knew I had
and went to live in
obstacles
Chicago.
in front of me.
Now, being a Southern girl,
And she told me,
first
never
time being in
lose sight
Chicago,
of the
those
prize.
tall buildings.
And
There
the
I
prize
was.
is
You could tell I was
what
country.
Jesus
I had on
has
a
given
dress,
you.
and each
And
day that you
socks
wake up, you have an
and shoes.
opportunity. I mean,
To
so
be better than you
looked
were
upon,
yesterday.
laughed upon, but still.
So with that instilled in
my
me,
parents
I set
instilled
off
in
in
me
Chicago to
graduate
graduate
from
from
high school,
will guide you through.
and then
That if you put him first,
I
no weapon
I
formed
went on
against
to
you
get
will
my
ever
bachelor's
prosper.
degree from Howard University College of
So
Nursing.
with that, I knew I had.
But before that,
obstacles in front of me.
my
And
ex-husband,
she told me,
who was in
never
med school,
lose sight of the prize.
had this notion that
And the prize
being a
is
man and
what
a doctor, he
Jesus
could do
has
anything
given
he
you.
wanted to. Each day
So
that
he
you
set
wake
off
up,
a
you have
life
an
of
opportunity
to be better than you were yesterday.
and left.
So
me.
with that instilled
There
in
I
me,
was.
I set off in
in
Chicago,
Virginia, Arlington,
graduate
Virginia,
from
didn't know
high
how to
school,
drive,
catching the bus
and
everywhere.
then
So I decided
those were
I went on to
obstacles
get
that
my
man
bachelor's
put
degree from
before
Howard
me.
University College of Nursing,
Not God.
So
But
I
before
bought
that,
myself a car. You hear me?
my,
I bought a
ex-husband,
car
who was
and
in
couldn't
med
drive.
school,
Had
bought a
this
car.
notion that being
went
a
to
man
DMV
and a doctor
and
could
got
do
my
anything he
driver's
wanted to.
license.
So
I
he
drove
set off a
myself
life
home,
of being unfaithful,
and in the process
and
of doing all
left
that,
me.
and the
There I
stress
was
of my husband leaving me,
in
I
Virginia,
threw a
Arlington,
pulmonary
Virginia,
embolism.
didn't know how to drive.
And for those of you who don't know what that is,
catching the
that's
bus
a blood
everywhere.
clot that
So I decided
dislodges. Those were
and
obstacles that
traveled
man
through the
put
parts of
before
the
me.
body, and wherever it
Not God.
lands is where you
So
have
I
a
bought
problem.
myself a car. You hear me?
With
I
me, that
bought
blood
a
clot
car
landed on
and
the
couldn't
right
drive.
side of my heart.
I bought a car.
Now the right side is
Went to
better than the
DMV
left side because the
and
left
got
side
my
takes
driver's
blood
license.
directly through.
I
to
drove
your-
myself home.
The right side
Process
uses
of doing all
your
and
lower
the stress
extremity
of my husband leaving me.
respiratory.
I threw a
So
pulmonary
that was the
embolism.
best place for it.
And
to
for
land.
those of you who don't know,
So
what
there
that
I
is,
was
that's
in
a
a
blood
hospital
clot
that dislodges
on IV
and travel
heparin
through the parts of the body, and
getting blood
wherever
work
it
every
lands
hour
is where
because
you
I
have to
problem.
continue to throw clots because I
With
worry.
me, that blood clot landed on
And
the
I
right side
had
of my heart.
Now the right
A
side
home
is better than the
teacher
left side
from Howard
because the
University,
left
one of
side
my
takes
best
blood
friends,
directly through,
as well
to
as
your-
my instructor,
came along and said, the right side
do not die for this
uses
man.
your lower extremity.
You have to get yourself together.
respiratory. So that
And
was the
she
best
told me,
place for
quote
it to land.
unquote,
So
tell
there I
him to
was
get
in a
his
hospital
shit and
bed.
get.
I will never ever forget that.
On IV
I was going
heparin,
into my senior year,
getting
blood work every
at Howard
hour
University.
because I continued to throw
Obstacles
clots
placed
because I
before
worried.
me. Needed to take exams,
And I
there was
had
in the
a
hospital.
Well,
A
I tell you
home
what,
teacher
I got
from Howard
myself up
University,
out of that
one of my
hospital
best
bed,
friends, as
still
well
on
as my
insulin,
instructor, came along and said,
I took
do
my
not
senior
die for this
my,
man.
exams and passed
You have
so
to
that I
get
could be a
yourself
senior.
together.
And with that, I went from one
And she
extreme to
told
the
me,
other.
quote unquote,
From being dependent
tell him to get his
to
shit
being
and get.
I will
Independent,
never ever forget that. Fiercely independent. Going into
I was
my
senior class president
year
at
at
the
the
College
College
of Nursing. Obstacles
I was
placed before me.
undergraduate,
Needed to take
vice
exams, and
president,
there I was in the
a
hospital.
student union.
Well, I tell you what,
I got myself up out of that
CEO.
hospital bed,
and also
still
I
on
joined the
insulin,
sorority, and I was its president.
I took my
I
senior
joined my
all the
exams
groups
as far
and
as
passed so that I
policy.
could be a senior.
Politics, because I
And with
love
that, I
politics.
went from one extreme to the other.
From being there,
independent.
I decided to join the Army.
Being
I
independent.
joined the Army to be independent,
Fiercely independent.
and to just
I was
do
senior class
what God had
president
set me to do and what my
of the
parents
College of
had set
Nursing.
for me to do.
I was
Going into the
undergraduate
Army,
vice president
strikes against
of
me
student
before I even
union.
entered.
I
Black
was the CEO.
female.
And
Officer.
also, I joined the
So I went
sorority,
in as a second
and I was
lieutenant.
its president.
Immediately as I got
I
into
joined all the
Army,
groups as far as
I was
policy,
told that I was more
politics,
interested
'cause I
in
love
getting my
politics.
degree and bettering myself than serving the Army.
And there I decided to join
Nonsense.
the Army.
Because if I joined the Army to be independent, educate yourself and better yourself, and to just
can be
do
better for
what God had
for
set
others.
me to do and what my parents
And
had
so
set for me
I
to
didn't
do.
understand that because I was pursuing
Going
my
into the
master's
Army
degree
and
strikes
healthcare
against
against
me
me
before
before
I
I even
at
entered
Fort Sam.
Black here in San Antonio, Texas. Female. So my
Officer.
evaluations, I went in as a second lieutenant, were not good. Immediately as I got into
couldn't
the
take me
Army,
out of.
no matter how many
that I was
strikes
more
I
interested
got
in getting my
because
degree
how
and
can you
bettering
punish an
myself
officer
in
serving the Army
for
What
bettering
nonsense.
herself by getting
Because
a
if
degree.
I went to school at night, educate yourself
And still
better
serve the
yourself,
military.
you can be better.
And you
the-
know what?
For others, they scheduled me to work, and so I
the
didn't
shift
understand
when
that
I was
because
going
I
to be
was
graduating.
pursuing my master's degree. They scheduled me
healthcare
to
and human
work
resources
when
at
I
Fort
was
Sam.
going to be walking
And
down the
here
aisle
in San
to get my
Antonio,
degree.
Texas.
And none of the nurses
So
would
my
switch with me. Evaluations. So I went
Were not
and
good.
filed a complaint, but they couldn't take me
And they
out
heard
of
me as I
no
did.
matter how many strikes I
And so
got.
one of the
Because how can you
persons that was
punish an
interviewing me
officer
said, well, did they know you
for bettering
were
herself by
graduating?
getting a degree? I went to school
And
at
I
night.
said,
My head nurse is in the same
and still serve the
class
military.
as I am. And she's
And you know
graduating
what?
as
They
I am.
scheduled me
We
to
have
work
discussed many the shift courses.
when I was going to
we
be
were in the
graduating.
same group. They scheduled
could she
me to
not know?
work. Yes, she knew when I was going to
But
be walking down
intentionally
the aisle
scheduled
to
me
get
to
my
work
degree.
night shift.
And none of the nurses would switch
Well, the
with me.
interview
Panel agreed. So I
that it was
went
racial.
and filed a complaint. So they made
And
a
they
nurse
heard me as I talked.
take over my shift. And so
But
one
not
of
the
the
entire
shift, you
persons
guys,
that was interviewing me said, well, did they
gave
know
me
you
just enough
were
time
graduating?
to walk down the aisle
And
get
I said,
my degree,
my head
get
nurse
back in my
is
car
in the same
and come and work
class
the
as
remainder
I
shift.
am.
And she's graduating
But you know what?
as I am. We have discussed
did
many courses.
With
We were in the
smiles.
same group.
Because they did not
How could she
expect that
not
from
know?
me.
Yes, she knew. No weapon
But
formed
intentionally
against me
scheduled
will
me to
ever
work
prosper
night shift.
as long as I am in
Well,
the
the
will
interview
of the
panel
Father.
agreed that it was racial.
So second
So they
lieutenant, the first
made
lieutenant,
a nurse
because now I
take
had my
over my
master's
shift.
degree, but not the entire
My head
shift. You
nurse
guys,
had her master's degree.
they gave me just enough
So
time
they got me out
to
of that
walk down
unit.
the aisle, get my degree,
And
get
the next
back
thing
in my
you know,
car, and come
I
and work the
decided I
remainder shift.
wanted to go to
But you know what?
Würzburg. I did it
Overseas. Because
with
there they had an
smiles.
opportunity
because
for
they did not expect
an
that from me.
officer. No
to
weapon
go and help them
formed
get
against
out
me will
from
ever
Joint
prosper.
Commission.
As long as
No other
I
person
am
wanted to
in
go.
the
I
will
volunteered.
of the Father. And when I
volunteered,
so second lieutenant to first lieutenant, because now
I came
I
back
had my master's
with
degree.
escalate.
My head nurse,
The
had
commander
her master's degree of the hospital.
So they got me out of that
and the
unit.
commander of the post
And the next
gave
thing
me
you know,
5-star work.
I
ratings,
decided I wanted to go
a coin
to
because I helped them through
Würzburg.
Joint Commission.
overseas.
Immediately promoted
Because there they
to
had an
captain.
opportunity.
Now,
for
must I say,
an
my head
officer
nurse that was on that unit,
to go and help them get out from Joint Commission.
she didn't
No
even
other
want
person
me
wanted to go. I
to
volunteered.
go into the reserves because I decided at that time I was going to go
and
into
when
the
I
reserves
volunteered,
and pursue
another master's
I
degree.
came back with
Because I remember what my
escalates.
mom told me.
The
You
commander
have to do more
of
than the
the
person next to you,
hospital,
no matter what color.
and the
So I
commander
wanted a
of the
second
post
master's.
gave me 5-star work.
She told me,
rating. Well, a coin
we're going
because
to
I
not let
helped
you
them
go
through
into
Joint
reserves.
Commission. How can you not let me go into
Immediately
the
promoted
reserves?
to captain.
But they did everything and they
Now,
worked
must I
together,
say,
and
that's
my
what they
head
did.
nurse
So
that
you
was
know
on
what?
that unit, I still She
Pursued
she
my
didn't
degree.
even want me to go
Matter
into the
of fact,
reserves because I decided
the
the
Army
Army
Nurse
Nurse going to go
Corps
into the reserves and
stepped
pursue
in and said,
another
this is
master's
racial.
degree.
This
Because
is a
I remember
problem.
what my mom
So
told
they
me.
sent
You
me
have
to
to
get
do
my
more
master's of
than
nursing
the person next to you, no matter what.
free of
college.
charge.
So I wanted a second.
I didn't
master's.
have to attend any.
She told me, well,
Be on the
we're
unit.
going to
I got
not let you
4
go into the reserves.
2 years.
Can you not let
to
me
just
go
go
into
to
the
school.
reserves?
Long-term
But
schooling.
they
as
did
they call it.
everything and they worked together. And
Now, who's
that's
ever
what
heard
they
of
did.
that?
So you know what?
Black officer.
I still
Long-term schooling.
only thing I
pursued
had to
my
do was
degree.
bring home at least a B
Matter
in
of
graduate
fact,
school. Didn't
The
have
Army
to
Nurse
do
Corps
sit-ups, push-ups,
stepped in.
nothing.
It was
And
all
said,
the
this
Lord.
is racial. I did that.
This is
got,
a
so I
problem.
have 2 masters.
So they
degrees.
sent me to get my master's of
Next
nursing.
thing you know, there I
free
am.
of charge.
I decided
I didn't have to attend
looks like
any
a PhD.
be on the
So
unit.
That's
I
what
got
I did. I
4
started out getting my
2 years
PhD.
to just go to
And
school.
then while at Fort
Long-term
Sam
schooling,
Houston,
as they call it.
I was promoted to
Now,
lieutenant
who's ever
colonel.
heard of that? Black
There are a few
officer.
lieutenant colonels
Long-term
that look
schooling.
like me.
Only thing I had
Do
to
your
do
research.
was
Bring home
in all
at
the
least a
corps.
B in
Do
graduate
your
school.
research. Didn't have
And
to
find out how
do
many black
sit-ups, push-ups,
female
nothing. It
lieutenant
was all the
colonels
Lord.
I
Show up.
did that.
Get the
got- so I have
percentage.
2 masters, degrees.
Particularly back in 2000.
Next thing you know, there I am.
So,
I decided,
there I am.
Fort Sam
Looks
Houston,
like a
PhD.
chief of case management.
So
that means
that's
that
what
I was
did.
in charge
started
of
out
soldiers
getting my
who were
PhD.
coming back.
And
All
then while
branches
at Fort Sam Houston,
that
I
were
was
injured
promoted to
in
lieutenant colonel.
Afghanistan.
There are a
Inpatient
few
burn unit,
lieutenant colonels that
outpatient,
look like me.
responsible
Do your research.
in
for their
all the
health.
corps.
I
Do
was
your
chief of
research
case manager.
and find
Another
out how
thing.
many black
That's unheard
female lieutenant
But
colonel.
let me tell you, when God has a plan
Show
for
up.
you,
Get the percentage.
nothing,
Particularly
no
back
one
in
take it 2000.
talk about obstacles.
So
There's no obstacles for the Lord.
there I am.
He just
Fort
say
Sam
be a
Houston.
willing vessel. Chief of case management.
And my parents,
That means that
I was in charge of
and
soldiers
echoing
who were coming
in
back,
my brain.
all branches. And so I
They
set
were
forth
injured in
to
Afghanistan.
carry out the purpose that the Lord has
Inpatient
given
burn
me.
unit, outpatient.
So
Responsible
here I am working on
case
for their
management.
health.
I was chief
And I
of case
decided
management. Another
that
thing,
after 2012
that's
it's time to get
unheard
out. I'd done enough.
but let me tell you,
When God has a plan for you, nothing and no one can take
then
it
you know
from
what?
you.
Talk about obstacles. There's
I
no
became a
obstacles
civilian
for
at
the Lord.
GS.
He just say be a willing vessel. I got
My
a
parents
call
teaching,
2013
echoing
and echoing
in my
from
brain.
the office of
And so I set forth
Michelle
to
Obama.
carry out the purpose
Yes,
that the Lord
Michelle
has given
Obama.
me.
Out of the military.
And said,
So
because
here
of
I
the
am
work that
working
you do
on
for
case
wounded
management.
warriors.
Your leadership
And I
abilities
decided
that we've heard about.
That after 2012 was time to get
We
out.
want you
I'd done enough.
to
I'd
be
done
with
enough.
us for the entire week of Barack Obama's
Then you know what?
inauguration.
I became
First,
a civilian of GS.
African-American president. Now, first,
of
I
course.
got a call.
Y'all know I thought it was
2013
somebody
playing a trick from
So
the
I
office
said, yeah,
of
sure.
Michelle
And she
Obama.
said, I'm sending you
Yes,
Michelle
no,
Obama.
she's
Not.
out of the military.
She's having her staff
and
send
said
over
because of the work that you
all
do for wounded
the
warriors,
information that I need
your leadership ability
to be in
that we've
Washington,
heard
D.C.
about.
for the inauguration.
We
So I
want you
gave her my email
to be
address,
with
still
us
laughing,
for the
hung up the
entire
phone.
week of
I got an
Barack
email
Obama's
with
a
inauguration.
White House stamp.
Y'all
First,
know what African-American president.
the White House
Now, first, of
seal
course,
with everything.
y'all know I
Congratulations
thought
because of your
playing
leadership
the trick.
ability.
So I said, yeah, sure.
I flew
And
to
she said,
Washington,
I'm
D.C. for
sending
the
you.
entire week.
No, she's not. She's having her staff
I
send
met
over all
President
the
Barack
information
Obama
that I needed
and Vice
to be in
President
Washington, D.C.
Joe
for the
Biden
inauguration.
and Jill
So
and
I
Michelle.
gave her my email address.
Still
I
laughing.
presented them with
Hung
a
up the phone.
coin.
Each
I got an
family
email
with
in a plaque.
a White House stamp.
that I had created. Y'all know what for Wounded Warriors. The White House sealed them with everything. Congratulations. Because of that whole week, I participated in every event. I flew to Washington, D.C. for the entire week. Yeah, it was publicized in the news. And did you know the Army tried to take credit? Oh, that's our colonel. That's our vice president. That's how they Joe Biden. They and come Jill, when the accolades come. But I knew it was the Lord. I presented them with a coin. Each, when I got back, family, in a plaque, I got that I had created from President Barack Obama, Wounded Warriors, and a letter from Vice President Joe Biden, thanking me for that whole week. I participated in every event and for my leadership ability. And I have got home. Yeah, it was publicized in the news. And did you know the Army tried to take credit? Oh, that's our colonel. I received that's our, but that's how they do. They come to be invited when the accolades come. But I knew it was the Lord. Vice President going President Joe Biden. When I got back, he remembered me. He remembered a letter from President Barack Obama and asked me to come letter from Vice President Joe Biden, because I have a show, a TV show that's called Health and Healing with Dr. Mark, and for my leadership ability. My platform allows people to come on and talk about their loss, 2020, being a servant. The inaugural committee gave me permission to be invited to air my show live, Vice as part of the inaugural president Joe Biden. Because he remembered me. There again, Black, he remembered me. Female, not officer, and asked me to come to Washington, D.C. Because I have a show, a TV show that's called Health and Healing with Dr. Margaret. My platform allows people to come on and talk about their loss happened on the 6th. So people say, oh, it's going to be dangerous. Don't go. I said, the inaugural committee, the Lord is my shepherd, gave me permission. I shall not want to air my show live as part of the inaugural events to Washington, D.C. There again, I met Black, my sister, female, my great friend, my mentor, not officer, doctor, but a servant. I had a chance to put my arms around her. There's that seal again, the White House support. Was no joke. The love she has shown me. And the insertions, a sister of God. I had a chance to meet 6. So people will say, oh, it's going to be dangerous. Don't go. I said, the Lord is my shepherd. They let me do a documentary. They did a documentary on me. A documentary. I flew to Washington, D.C. My life as a leader, a Black female leader. My sister, being a Howard University grad. Remember I told you the story of Howard University now? Lotus Richey. I had a chance to put my which is the British Broadcasting Network for the support. The love decided to do a documentary on my leadership. A sister of God. I had a chance to meet her. Back to Howard University, and while I was where it all began, and videoed me. They let me do a documentary. They did a documentary on me. And then I was able to do my show as a leader, a Black female as part leader. Of one of the events. Being a Howard University grad. Remember I told you the story of Howard University events. Black, the BBC, female, which is the British Broadcasting Network, decided to do a documentary on my leadership. The pandemic took me back to Howard University where it all began. We've had obstacles before, and but to me, being an author, that doesn't make sense. I follow, and then I was able to do my we as women, there are obstacles as part of one of these. It's hard to get support. Everybody could join in from people who look at you and see who you are. Black, female, but none of my degrees. And I finally got my PhD. Yes, I did. None of my
Let me tell you
degrees
something.
defined me.
The pandemic
I am a daughter
is
of
as
the
the
Most
pandemic.
High. That defines me.
We've
And I
had
have to
obstacles
walk
before,
accordingly.
but to me, being an
Because
author,
no weapon formed against me, no obstacle put before me,
follow the Lord.
can conquer.
We as women, there are
Will
obstacles.
form anything
It's
against
hard
me.
to get support, for I am from people who look at you and see
Who
who
you
you are. He say that I am. But none of my degrees,
And I am Dr.
and I finally got my
Margaret
PhD. Yes, I
Fournier Holmes,
None of my degrees
retired
defined
Lieutenant Colonel.
me. End
I
of
am a
life
daughter
hospice
of the Most High.
coach.
Over
That
45
defines me.
years.
And I have to walk accordingly.
International speaker.
Because no weapon
TV
formed
host
against me, no
and
obstacle put before
but
me,
most of all,
I'm a child of the living God.
can conquer.
I thank you for this
Will
opportunity
form
to share
anything against me.
some of the purpose, because
For I am
still don't know what purpose he has me
whose
for. Oh,
he
and
said
let me
that I
tell
am.
you, tomorrow I'll be flying
am
to
Dr.
Washington, D.C.
Margaret
I was
Fournier
asked by
Holmes,
Dr. Lotus and Dr.
retired
Joanne
Lieutenant Colonel,
to walk side by side
end of
as he
life
finishes his walk
hospice
of
coach
forgiveness.
over 45 years.
Black, international
Female,
speaker, servant,
walking
TV host,
alongside
and
God's
author.
chosen. But most of all, thank you.
I'm a child of the living
Thank
God.
you so much, Dr. Fournier.
I thank
That
you for
was
this
quite
opportunity to
inspirational.
share
It was
some of
really
the purpose,
great to hear
because
your life
I still
story
don't
and
know
also how you've overcome
what purpose
so
he
many
has me for.
challenges in your life to get to where
let me
you
tell
are.
you,
And
tomorrow
the
I'll be
key message
flying to
today is never give
Washington,
up.
D.C.
Do not
I was asked by
do
Dr.
not
Lotus
allow other
and
people
Dr.
to define
Johan
who you are
to
and
walk
to tell
side
you
by
where your
side
journey
as he
ends.
finishes his
Follow
walk
your
of
dreams and follow your
forgiveness.
heart and follow the fighting spirit within
Black,
you. So I'm sure
female,
that that can resonate
servant,
with many of us
walking
here and many in
alongside
the audience.
God's chosen.
I would love to open up comments
Thank
and
you.
questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Fournier. That was quite inspirational. It was really
One that says,
great to hear
wow,
your life
what
story
an inspiring
and also how you've
story
overcome
from Colonel
so many
Margaret.
challenges
Incredible.
in your life to get to where you
Followed
are.
onwards.
And
We learn
the
on
key
daily
message
basis.
there is never give
But
up.
today at
Do
this
not,
summit, I'm growing with
do
these
not
inputs. Thank you,
allow other
Fondation
people to define
Lab
who
and
you are
allies for
and to tell
pinpointing
you
for us
where your
these
journey
incredible
ends.
speakers to
Follow your
incite us
dreams
to
and follow
action.
your heart and follow
This
the fighting
is
spirit
encouraging
within
and
you.
is certainly
So I'm sure
contributing
that
to
can resonate with
entrepreneurship
many of
journey.
us here.
Thank you
and
so much,
many in the
Apollonia. I'm
audience.
sure those are very
I
inspiring
would love
to
to open
Dr.
up
Fournier,
comments
but also
and questions
before we
also
close,
to the others in the room. And I
but
think
we
we
have
speak
two
on behalf
comments
of
from
the others
Apollonia.
who
One
are
that
present.
says, wow, what an
Florence,
inspiring
Dr.
story
Nisabwe
from
says,
Colonel
thank you for your
Margaret.
kind
Incredible.
feedback.
Apollonia.
And followed
Um,
onwards, we learn
Would
on
anyone
daily
else
basis.
like to ask a question?
But today,
Feel free to
at
raise your
this summit,
hand.
I'm growing with these inputs. Thank you,
Or
Fondation
to put it
Lab
into the
and
chat
allies
box.
for pinpointing for us these incredible speakers to incite us to action. This
We'll
is
give them a minute,
encouraging
but
and it's certainly
Dr.
contributing
Fournier, I
to my
wanted to say thank you so
entrepreneurship
much
journey.
on behalf
Thank
of
you so much,
Foundation
Apollonia. I'm sure
Lab,
those are
as
very
well as
inspiring
Dr.
to
Lotus
appreciate
tonight,
Nat,
but also
we really appreciate your contributions.
also to the others in the room, and I think we speak on
Florence,
behalf
before
of
we
the
play
others,
out the
who are present.
closing,
Florence,
the
closing
Dr.
video
Nisabwe
clip.
says, thank you for your
Could
kind
you
feedback.
maybe just
Apollonia.
share some of your thoughts on the wrap
Would
up
anyone
for
else like
today?
to ask a question?
Just a couple of comments
your
here
hand.
from Hillary Gooden saying,
Dr.
or
Margaret,
to
you
put
are
it into the
amazing.
chat box.
Dr. Ralph still has a question that says, Doctor, what one
We'll give
thing
them a
helped
minute,
you
but
overcome?
Dr. Fournier, I
And
wanted
before
to
you
say
answer
thank you
that,
so
there's
much
a
on
comment
behalf
from
of
Dr.
Foundation
Riche
Lab,
to say, wow,
as well as
what
Dr.
do you
Lotus
find
Ignite
is
one
we
of the
really
biggest
appreciate your
challenges now for Black
contributions.
women in social
And
media.
Florence,
Correction.
before we
Media.
play out
Okay, so
the
two questions there. The first from
closing,
Dr. Ralph Steele. The
what
closing
was
video
the
clip.
one thing that helped you
Could
overcome?
you maybe
And the
just
next
share
one
some
from
of
Dr.
your
Lotus
thoughts on
Riche,
the wrap up for today? Do you
just a
find
couple of comments
one of the
here
biggest
from Hillary
challenges now
Gooden
for Black
saying,
women in social media? What do
Dr.
you find?
Margaret, you are amazing.
Well, first of all, We are always
Dr. Ralph still has a
overcoming. We have
question
never overcome.
that says, Doctor,
we continue
one thing
to
helped you
strive
overcome?
for
And before you answer
for people
that,
to
there's a
believe
comment
that
from
we can get
Dr.
the job
Riche
done.
to say, wow, Dr. Malcolm, what do you
equality.
find
And,
is
I'm not
one of
about,
the biggest challenges now for Black women in social
you know,
media?
raising up
Correction,
signs and
media.
running in the
Okay,
street
so two questions
and doing
there.
all
The
that
first
kind
from
of thing.
Dr. Ralph
I'm
Steele.
about performance.
What was the one thing that helped
so
you
we
overcome?
talk about
And the next one from
what we
Dr.
want,
Lotus Riche to
but
say,
there's no action behind
do you
it.
find one of
So
the biggest
put your
challenges now for Black women
follow
in
your
social media?
dream,
What
no
do you
matter
find?
what. There will be
Well,
obstacles.
first
If
of
there's
all,
no obstacles, I don't
we
want it
are
because
always
you got
overcoming.
everybody
We
doing
have
it.
never
I
overcome.
want something.
We
my
continue
purpose.
to
Each one
strive
of us has
for,
a purpose.
we're
for people to
we're part
believe
of that
that we
puzzle.
can get the job
We have
done.
a piece of the
and
puzzle.
equality. No one can feel
And
that
I'm not
piece
about,
except for you.
so,
You know,
you have to
raising
ask,
up signs
what is
and,
my
and,
purpose?
and running in the street
And once
and
you
doing
know
all
it,
that kind of thing.
all you have to do is ask
I'm about
Father, he'll tell you.
performance.
This is your purpose.
So we talk about
set forth
what we want.
do it.
As
But
far
there
as
is
the
no
media goes,
action
social
behind
media.
it.
So put your active,
think
follow
that,
your dream, no matter what.
well,
there will be
let me
obstacles. If there's no obstacles,
When I
I
first
don't
got
want
out of the
it
military,
because you
we
got
went to work in
everybody
the civilian
doing that.
hospital.
I want something.
They
my
asked me about
purpose.
my skills.
Each one of us
Still,
has
they were
a
thinking of
purpose.
math.
We're part of that
and
puzzle. Private Benjamin. That's
of the puzzle.
that's the
Puzzle.
connotation that
No
they have.
one can feel
not
that
knowing
piece
that except for you.
So
we're out in the field. You have to ask, what is my purpose? Set up
and once you know
from
it,
tents.
all you have to do is ask
Work
the Father,
with
he'll
the
tell you.
wounded. This
is your
coming not
purpose.
from the
Then set
hospital
forth action.
things
and do
where
it.
it's so convenient.
As far as the media
we
goes,
have to
social
create
media,
our own hospital. So
they
our
think
skills
that,
have to come from
well,
mentally
let me
as
check.
well as physical. When I first got out of
Social
the military,
media,
I
I
think,
think,
still
hospital.
looks at us. They asked me about my
as
skills.
hot lips,
You know,
hula
they
hand,
were thinking
running
of
after
MASH
men
and that type of
Private
Private
Benjamin.
Benjamin
Scenario.
That's the connotation.
Now, I'm not saying that
have.
there aren't
knowing,
hot lips
not running
knowing that.
around, but that I
We,
think there are
when
more
we're out in the
female
field,
leaders. We have to, because we have a job to do,
hospitals
and
from
we know our
tents.
purpose. Work with the wounded
And yes,
that's coming, not
we
from
love.
the hospital.
We
Things
lose.
where it's so convenient.
Look at where the
we
nurses,
have to create what the our nurses
own
are doing
hospital.
right now in the pandemic.
So our skills,
they
have
are
to
front
come
and
from
center, mentally as well
Yet,
as physical. Have you heard about increased pay?
Hazard
Media,
pay
I think, still
things
looks
for
at
nurses
us because we are
as hot lips, hula hand,
running after
front
men,
line,
and that type of
but yet and still
scenario. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't, they're
hot
not
lips
taking
running
us serious.
around.
But
So
there's
there's a
I think there are
shortage.
more female
There's a shortage of
leaders.
healthcare workers. So
Because we have
Until
a
they
job
take
to
us
do
serious.
and we know our purpose. We will always
yes,
be overcome.
we love.
We lose.
Thank you so
Look at
much,
where
Dr.
the
Finia. That
nurses-
is a very
what the
valid
nurses
point.
are doing
I'm
right
sure
now in the
it
pandemic.
strikes home
They are front
quite
and center.
strongly.
Yet, have you
On that
heard about
note,
increased
I
pay?
want to say
Hazard
thank
pay,
you as well for your time and
things
to
for
the other
nurses
speakers,
because we
as well
are
as to our guests. But
front
Dr.
line,
Nisabwe would
billion,
like to
military,
just
front
share
line.
some words, and then we'd like for
But
you
yet
to
and
just
still,
hang around for a few moments later to watch our
they're
closing
not taking
ceremony.
us seriously.
Or
So there's a
closing,
shortage.
before
There's a shortage
we
of
prepare
healthcare
for
workers.
tomorrow. So I'm hoping, and
until they
the
take
team
us
on
serious,
Foundation Lance,
we will always
Afrique
be
Burundi
overcome.
is hoping that tomorrow you will join us. Same time, Thank you same so place, much, Dr. Finia. That is a for very another valid power point. I'm sure it strikes home speakers and strongly. also remember to share this on your social media. On that note, platforms. I want
you.
to
Over to you,
say
Dr.
thank you
Florence.
as well for your time and to the other speakers, as well as to our guests. But Dr. Nisabwe would like to share some words, and then we'd like for you to just hang around for a few moments later to watch our closing ceremony. Or closing before we prepare for tomorrow. So I'm hoping, and the team on Foundation Lance, Lance Afrique Burundi is hoping that tomorrow you will join us, same time, same place, for another power-packed day of speakers, and also remember to share this on your social media platforms. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Florence.
Our inspiration Thank you so much. And thank you so much, dear distinguished to bring solution on the table, participants. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm really grateful. No one can the moment alone. We have had together, even the government, Foundation Lab coming together is the best route to get the solution. Why? Because the pandemic has stolen us years of advancement in many challenging issues that we are facing or we are faced with during this pandemic. We are gathering here today is after the COVID pandemic, because it is not easy inspiration to rebuild aftermath. And also commitment. I'm really thanking you for on your time, your availability. But as I mentioned, to join us with no one can do it alone, and powerful even the government contribution. But to coming together to the Foundation Labs to get this is a great sign of a beginning of a collaboration, a partnership as we are coming together issues. And remember that we are facing the objective with the endpoint for this summit and to build an entrepreneur ecosystem, the COVID pandemic, to allow our communities not to benefit from our skills, our knowledge, and what we can offer. I'm really thanking you for your time, your availability for being with us in this to join us. And we hope that tomorrow and after tomorrow we will be again tomorrow. We will be again to Foundation Lab, and until we meet again. A great sign of a beginning of a collaboration.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nisa,
we are coming together. And remember, the objective, the end point for this summit is to build an entrepreneurial ecosystem to allow our communities to benefit from our skills, our knowledge, and what we can offer, what we can do better. So thank you so much for being with us in this journey, and we hope that tomorrow and after tomorrow we will be again we will be again together. And until we meet again, please stay safe, be blessed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nisa, for that.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us here today at the first annual Fondation Lab Summit, which has been a phenomenal global event, and we thank you for all that you have done and for what you will continue to do. Please join us tomorrow as we start 8 a.m. sharp, looking for you to be a part of the change that matters, because change starts with you. I thank you and have a great day, and can't wait to see you later on this evening. You can join me with my guest as we share wonderful news about caregivers and diversity. None other than the remarkable Miss Charlene Sparks will grace my show this evening on the Lotus Richey Ignite Show. So until we meet again, be blessed and don't stress. And remember, Foundation Lab is where we want to see you.
Okay,
tomorrow.
thank you so much for your
Foundation Lab First Annual Summit. It's that time to grab your time to grab this amazing social entrepreneurship empowerment event. Our summit sponsors organizers look forward to seeing you at the event on the 27th through the 29th of October 2021 on Zoom. Our summit is going to focus on a powerful social entrepreneurship as economic development policies, along with other topics that is sure to knock your socks off. Our host, Dr. Dr. Lotus Richey, and Dr. Ralph Steele are delighted to see you there. Grab your virtual ticket today.